This is the U.S. intelligence agency, mind control.
Rengas?
Yeah, almost there. It's A
Hard
instead
R,
of
hard
ER.
A.
No, hard A.
That's what I'm saying.
Ranga.
Rengas.
No S. Ranga.
Ranga.
Yeah, there you go. Nailed it.
But what if
Red
there's
Report,
multiple
the story of the
Rangers?
Gangarangers. Gangaranga.
Threat, featuring Herbert A. Philbrick, former FBI undercover agent.
Next episode of Teaching John Australian English. Cunt.
Stop! YouTube will delist us.
No, they won't.
You can't say it. You can't say it.
Just mark it as explicit in the settings, and
That's
it'll
not
be
how
fine.
it works. It's not like we're ever going to get monetized anyway. They permanently took it away.
Yeah. Maybe they'll remonetize us when we're officially an NGO. Maybe they'll have to. Because if that happens, they're gonna have to put a little label under us too. So we might actually have to register with them as a non-profit. So we may actually be able to liaise with YouTube directly and get that sorted. So we'll see. Thanks, YouTube.
Herb Philbrick here. In this Red Report, I'll be telling you about communist target youth.
Oh, look, a hungry hammer.
One of the most critical struggles against communism is on the youth front. J. Edgar Hoover reveals that on May 30, 1959, the communists organized a new
guy who
campaign
killed Martin
designed
Luther
to
King?
infiltrate and subvert the youth of this nation. He says in this report, approximately 20 young communists from New York City, Baltimore,
Fun fact
Chicago,
about
Detroit,
J.
Los
Edgar
Angeles, and
Hoover.
Philadelphia.
He was a cross-dresser. I don't know if that's true. That's just what I've been told multiple times throughout
That's
the years.
hilarious. God, I hope that's true.
Attended a conference of national leaders at their headquarters in New York City. Now, on that date, two of their most promising and active young communists, Mortimer Daniel Rubin and Danny Queen, were assigned the important task of coordinating communist youth activities.
Why do they all sound like this? I mean, I know why, because the microphones were shit. And there was like a radio voice, but even the TV presenters sound like this.
Yeah, that's just how Americans used to sound.
Signs appear. The communist youth activities began to pay off in May 1960. Here we see film taken of the communist-inspired riots at San Francisco during the hearings of the House Un-American Activities Committee, May 12 through 14 of that year. The first stage of the Communist Plan of Action began to unfold after word was received that subpoenas had been issued for local West Coast communists to appear at the hearings scheduled to take place in May 1960. And one of these recipients was Douglas Watka, an 18-year-old sophomore. Party officials decided to build a major part of their plan of attack around Watka. Now, immediately after receiving his subpoena, Watka proceeded to the University of California campus to organize student demonstrators. With attention growing, the inevitable happened. The students were incited to mob hysteria and violence. After the affair ended, states Mr. Hoover, the communist national leader, Gus Hall, congratulated the West Coast comrades for their initiative and leadership, displayed, he said, at all stages of the demonstration. In short, the consensus of opinion in the Communist Party was that the riot had been the best thing that had occurred in years. Now, I want to emphasize that only a tiny number of Reds were actually involved in the demonstration.
Tiny number of Reds. Was this the Berkeley free speech protest? Is that what he's talking about?
Most of those young people were not communists, but they were victimized by highly trained, highly skilled experts in the techniques of mob hysteria. You might ask, how are the communists doing in their campaign to subvert our youth? Well, not as well as they would like. The communists have been finding it more difficult to recruit our school and college youth now. Much harder than college youth in previous years, but the danger is still there. And our young people can combat the communists only if they are aware of the danger and if they are prepared to cope with communist trickery and deceit. The Reds have many tricks up their Soviet sleeves, and we're going to expose numerous of them on our forthcoming Red Reports.
I'm excited.
In this Red Report, we're going to tell you what the communists did on this date that made history in new Soviet directives. December 5, 1960, a day to get down in
There's so
history.
many transitions.
On that date, the communists released new Soviet directives, new orders to the Communist International and every country of the world, including the United States. The Senate Internal Security Committee in a special report had this to say: these are Kremlin commands to its world communist apparatus, its saboteurs, its spy rings, dupes, and fellow travelers to wage an all-out campaign against the United States as the biggest barrier to Soviet world domination. Now, if you're not concerned with these directives, you should be, because they certainly affect you. The Reds, in carrying out their orders, will commit deeds which directly affect your life, your family, and your job.
You know what the president said about, the president said? He said, war is too important to be left to the generals. When he said that 50 years ago, he might have been right. But today, war is too important to be left to politicians. They have neither the time, the training, or the inclination for strategic thought. I can no longer sit back and allow communist infiltration, communist indoctrination, communist subversion, and the international communist conspiracy to sap and impurify all of our precious bodily fluids.
It's a bit dramatic.
The communists will directly affect your income and your future. Are the newspapers concerned? Well, let's take a look at what one prominent metropolitan newspaper had to say. It is an order to communists the world over to step up in every way.
I'm beginning to smell a big fat commie rat.
Using every possible weapon, from armed revolution to diplomatic negotiations. If this statement recognizes the enormous damage World War III would do to all humanity, it overlooks that recognition by advocating policies which increase the danger of war, and by arguing that if such a conflict broke out, only capitalism would be buried. We cannot forget that Khrushchev said,
"A doofus.
We will bury you." Well, such directives are not new. They simply bring up to date the tactics and strategy for the unchanging Soviet goal, and that is the domination and control of the world, to destroy freedom, and to fly the red flag over America. Just as surely as they did in the Hungarian Revolution, films of which you see here. It's
God
the sole
willing, we
purpose
will
of the World
prevail.
Communist Party to rule the world.
In
They will use
peace
any means at their disposal,
and
including
freedom
deceit,
from fear,
trickery, bribery,
and in
or
true
ruthless
health,
force, changing
through
only
the
what
purity
is
and
expedient
essence
for
of
their
all
final
our
aim,
natural
of world
fluids.
domination. Karl Marx said, "Let the ruling classes tremble."
I missed it. Fuck. Hold on.
Well, because I was talking about bodily fluids.
No, I missed the. I was hovering over it. You distracted me. Fuck.
World domination.
Hold on.
Karl Marx said,
I'm fucking better
"Let
than
the
you.
ruling classes tremble." In 1920, Lenin said, "As
You can call
long
me
as
whatever the
capitalism
fuck
and
you
socialism
want.
exist,
At this point, I
we
don't give a
cannot live in
shit.
I just went, that
in the
it just
end,
didn't come through.
one or the
Oh,
other
really?
will
Sometimes
triumph."
they don't.
And in 1924, Stalin said,
What do you think the lizard
"War
people are in
with the
charge?
West
What did they do?
is
Did they hire
inevitable."
somebody to do pencil
And
drawings
in
of all these
1960,
idiots?
Khrushchev
Hey,
said,
You
there's
are
"The
garbage.
children
Daddy.
of present-day
Okay, you're
America
garbage.
will
Hi,
live
Daddy.
in a communist society."
Look,
Do you
man,
think that
let me
Khrushchev is
tell you
kidding?
something about Khrushchev, all right? Nobody has brought America to its knees like he did, okay? Let's be clear about that. He made a nuclear threat, put his dick right out on the table, and won that exchange, right?
That
The
is
United
true.
States, made a whole grandstand, just like Iran does a whole grandstand, like they're going to do something about something. And what does America do? Pulls their missiles out of Turkey, all right? Khrushchev is the only Soviet leader who actually beat the Americans. And he beat it at the most important crisis that the Americans have ever faced. 9/11
Well,
was
we
probably worse, I guess.
And if you should need proof that Mr. Khrushchev and his company mean what they say, we hope to prove it to you on future Red Reports.
Have you ever seen a communist drink a glass of water?
Why should the
Sure.
Vodka,
Red
that's what
be
they drink, isn't
intensely
it? Never
interested?
water.
In a small country in Asia, only twice the size of the state of Pennsylvania, with only half the population of the city of Chicago.
How will a
very
commie
good
ever
reason.
drink
We're
water?
going to tell you about it on this Red Report entitled Red Target, Laos. The kingdom of Laos, to the
You understand
casual
what I'm
observer,
getting
doesn't
at,
look
Jack?
like very much to get excited about.
Water.
No.
That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Water, Jack. Water is
Okay.
the source of all life. 7/10
Even
of the Earth's
communists.
surface is water. Why do you
Sure.
realize that 70% of you is water? And as human beings, you and I need fresh, pure water to replenish our precious bodily fluids. You beginning to understand?
Sure. Fun fact, water doesn't actually hydrate you that well.
You ever
kinda
wonder
interesting.
why I only drink distilled water or rainwater and only
No,
pure
why?
grain alcohol?
Mm-hmm. Can't have the impurities. The body is a temple.
Have you ever heard of a thing called fluoridation?
No.
Fluoridation of water? Fluoride in the
Sure.
water?
Yeah, it makes your teeth strong.
Do you realize that fluoridation is the most monstrously conceived and dangerous communist plot we'll ever have to face?
Is that right? You know what that sounds like?
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
However, the Reds have a different view. And so with every evil trick of subversion, of infiltration, and of revolution, they are fighting to conquer that little country. Laos is only 600 miles long, at places only 60 miles wide. Total area, only 91,000 square miles. The people are, for the most part, primitive. Transportation is almost as primitive. There are only 4 roads of any length in Laos, and only 2 of these link that country
You
with
realize
the
that in
outside
addition to
world, but
fluoridating
mostly
water, there are
Laos is-
studies underway to fluoridize salt, flour, fruit juices, soup, sugar, milk, ice cream. Ice cream, Jack. Children's ice cream.
Mr. President, I'm beginning to smell a big fat commie rat.
You know when fluoridation first began? 1946.
Wow.
1946, Jack.
Crazy.
How does that coincide with your post-war commie conspiracy, huh? It's incredibly obvious, isn't it? A foreign substance is introduced into our precious bodily fluids without the knowledge of the individual, clearly without any choice.
Hoggers!
That's the way your hardcore commie works, Jack.
And you got a lot of them. I love dogs. You love dogs.
is jungle. Their medical facilities and industry are sorely lacking. But with all this lack of nearly everything, the Reds want Laos, and they want it bad. Laos to the Reds represents a block to their plans for the conquest of the Far East. Laos lies as a buffer between communist Red China in the north, and communist Vietnam on the east, and the free nations to the south and to the west.
Nations.
The communists reasoned that with Laos conquered, they will have a good launching pad to the Philippine Islands. A launching pad for the
What did he
communist drive
call 'em?
aimed at taking the
Free.
3?
Cambodia. This was made in 1960.
He called them like P-R-E?
Free. Free. F-R-E-E. Free.
Free nations. Oh,
Cambodia.
because they're not
You know,
communist.
the killing fields?
Yeah, well, he wasn't the communist government.
Not yet. It was only a couple years away.
Philippine Islands into the communist bloc. Yes, Laos is a backdoor route to key ports in this area, such as Singapore, southern Malaya. Also, the communists have their red-tinted eyes on the rich
Interesting.
farmlands,
It's
the
Malaya,
untapped minerals,
Singapore,
raw
isn't it?
materials of the countries just beyond Laos. So now with
Another
these
like
facts in
10
mind,
years or
do
so.
you see why the Reds want Laos? There's an important message to be learned here. There was always an important reason behind every move made by the communists. They never move without looking ahead. Now, many times this reason may be obscured, but just the same, the reason is there, if you look for it. Now, to further confuse their enemies, the Reds always try to hide their true motives. Their greatest ally in this matter is the individual who says, well, let them have Laos. Who wants it? Well, never do the communists forget the admonition of Lenin. We must resort to all sorts of stratagems, maneuvers, illegal methods, evasions, and
It's so
subterfuge.
funny because they talk
It's all
about Bin
part of
Laden
it.
and people like this nowadays.
The master plan. Now, there's only one way to successfully combat the Communist International. That is to expose their
To
strategy,
protect our precious
to
bodily
spotlight their
fluids.
maneuvers, to reveal the truth about their evasions and subterfuge. That's exactly what we intend to do on our forthcoming Red Reports.
That's not proper piece of etiquette!
The communists would like to have you believe that they're protectors of the poor People's Party. I'll explode that myth in this Red Report as we answer the question,
Let's
do the
fucking
poor
go.
become communists? As many of you know, after reading the story of my counter-spy work in the Communist Party, I first became involved in the communist apparatus by accident. My first contact with the communists was through a communist front organization, the Cambridge Youth Council in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Well, I knew nothing about communism at that time. Indeed,
I've never
probably...
heard the word communism mentioned in a video so many fucking times.
I just want you to think about this, how commies are, right?
Mm.
Imagine being a disingenuous FBI agent infiltrating them and then hearing what they actually say pretty openly, right? It's like the same type of shit that they say, right? They they barely mask it behind anything.
Yes.
And
they're
like,
very open.
but the thing is
especially
that
the Stalinists.
yeah, but these people are still like fringe among like the new left movement. You know, most of the people in the new left would be like, yeah, I support the Communist Party, but they aren't looking at like justifying like Pol Pot and shit.
No, they're more ancoms than anything. They just haven't realized that they're anarchists yet.
So, like, imagine going in there and hearing them like talk about the like reprehensible shit that they're always talking about. Like, I don't understand. Like, just separate the ideology from the fucking people behind it.
Yeah. Like, it really isn't that hard.
Like, who's the
really
daddy of liberalism? Like, who do we hold up as the icon of liberalism? Like, in this country, I guess it's George Washington and Lincoln.
Yeah.
But
I guess
like,
every country has their own.
Even then, they're American, not liberal. Right?
Yeah.
It's not like the international communist.
They would have been Republicans.
Right? And like Hitler and Stalin are so notable, but like nobody gives a fuck about Churchill, De Gaulle. Nobody gives a fuck about De Gaulle. Nobody gives a fuck about FDR or Truman. Not like they do Hitler and Stalin.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a fuck about Japan either. Can you explain the new left? I highly recommend Ryan Chapman does a video on this. Let me pull up the video.
He has a lot of videos discussing ideologies specifically. They're very, very good.
I'm not knowledgeable enough on it, but he has this video that's really, really good.
But he basically, what he does is he reads 3 or 4 books and then uses them as sources for the videos. So with that in mind, understand that limited sources, but still 4 books is a lot of books.
He has the video's called The Forgotten Marxist of the 60s. And the thumbnail is literally the new left. So this
it's a good video.
This right here. Come on.
He's really good at getting his information across as well.
Yeah, so it's right
just
here.
Play a little bit of it.
Just it's an hour long, you know. So
yeah, just like pick a random 5 minutes somewhere.
Racism, which is pretty similar to our modern idea of systemic racism, which apparently everyone called SNCC, which was by far the best selves, where they have their own goals and their own beliefs in their head. And on top of that, it's a society based on freedom, cooperation, and civility. This had already been modified from the original version of liberalism, which we now call classical liberalism. But this is what people meant at the time when they're talking about liberal society and liberal principles. Going back to this book, the author specifically named an ideology that he felt had run its course and could be thought of as exhausted. And that ideology was Marxism. That didn't go...
And it's funny because the new left is way better than like the hardliner.
Well, with various types.
I don't get... Kraut is an idiot. Have you seen his Saudi Arabia video?
I don't want to.
It's just...
Yeah, no. I vehemently disagree on that sense. I think he's one of the best people doing this kind of content for political stuff.
Types of
he does not inject
and the 60s
any
was
of his
period where they
into
responded
videos.
to that. And before they did, they made 3 major changes to their versions of Marxism.
This is
the
also
first major change
one of his first videos.
To distance themselves from the Soviet Union and Soviet Marxism, which they now called vulgar Marxism. The second major change was they stopped trying to make a revolution through the proletariat and instead shifted their focus to young intellectuals, which, as it turned out, was mostly college students. And the third major change was that they expanded their ideas away from class, but mostly not totally dropping it, and into the realm of culture. So you can find all these changes in a letter by C. Wright Mills that he wrote to young intellectuals at the time, where he gave a name to the movement, which he called the New Left. So the New Left,
the original
was a period
bread
where this new type of Marxism was developed, and where it became popular, and where it interacted with other existing ideas at the time. So
Crazy,
this happened
reformed
in
Marxism.
4 major movements. 3 of them were based in identity, and one was just called the Student Movement or Student Radicals. They weren't part of any identity group that brought them together, besides, I guess, being students. And they mostly focused on elites oppressing the masses through the lens of power and authority. An important thing to understand is that the New Left wasn't operating in a political vacuum at the time. There was this widespread feeling that liberal America had been falling short of its own principles, and that too many people had been patting themselves on the backs for having made this free and equal society. But for too many people in that society, things weren't free and equal. So I think the civil rights movement was like a powder keg that popularized that type of critique. And that made lots of different types of people want to get involved and make their own movements.
Neocons, I think, came
So
from
this
Reagan
sort
and
of shared
Thatcher,
critique of liberal America brought lots
which
of
is, I
different types
think,
of people
a
together.
knee-jerk
But then from there, opinions
overstep
split
to
roughly into 2 camps. One of those
communism,
camps wanted
I
reform.
think.
These people wanted to
They
live in
were
a
both
society
pretty
that was actually
against
free and equal
communists.
for everyone, not a society that slanted power towards certain demographics while putting its thumb on others. So they basically thought liberal society was falling short of its own principles, and that it needed some tweaks in order to fix that and create a happier, more inclusive society. They were referred to as the liberal left. You can generally tell if a movement is a liberal left movement if they have the word rights attached to it. Their goal is to get equal rights and equal treatment, and then assimilate back into liberal society when they're done. And the other camp wanted revolution. They basically looked around America and saw society as fundamentally rotten. The problems of America went so deep that America, as we know it, was unsalvageable. And they basically wanted to break it apart and make a new America with new principles. Not just any principles, but principles that agreed with Marxism. So you had...
So I'd put me even beyond this, because I think revolutionary ideology is like unrealistic and stupid. So it's like you take both of these things and fuse them and become into a transformationism, like through a progressive system over time into a completely new system, because systems don't tend to develop overnight. Did Stalin do the revolution or white gloves or whatever?
Had 2 major goals
Also,
within the radical left.
It's also the revolution, the vanguard idea. It always leads to Soviet systems. It always leads to a party ruling everything, centralized control, exact same system as capitalism. It just always leads to the same thing. So if there's ever a vanguard revolution type thing, get the fuck away from them. They will kill you if you don't agree with them.
This book basically says that the masses don't have control over elites. So elites run society, which is oppressive to the masses and is essentially undemocratic. And this book basically says that the material comforts of modern capitalism brainwashed people into a kind of one-dimensional sameness and keeps them from being able to imagine alternative Marxist societies. If you remember this guy from
why
the letter
does
that
it
I
have to be a
referenced earlier,
Marxist society? Alternative society, period. Like, there's more than like 2 fucking ideologies to pick from if you consider yourself progressive or the left.
Yeah.
Here in the video, he was the one that wanted to specifically target young intellectuals as a source for this video.
Interesting. Look,
he was the one that wanted
NATO here. Combining the awareness of many NATO intellectuals is what they call ideology.
To specifically target young intellectuals as a source for this new type of revolution. So these students heard that and felt like they were being spoken to and wanted to rise to the occasion. In their efforts to rise to the occasion, the SDS went on a pretty crazy journey, starting as a little organization to becoming the biggest organization on the left by far, and probably playing a role in ending the Vietnam War, to collapsing back down to a tiny domestic terrorist unit. And all of that was within a decade. Out of all the movements we've talked about, the student radicals are by far the trickiest to categorize. In my opinion, they start.
There you go. Advertisement for a great video. Actually, like, if you want to, if honestly, nobody does theory that I care about except for him. Like, I can't stand the injections.
A lot less than most of you folks watching this program. But even with my lack of knowledge about communism, still, I knew that something was wrong. And so I contacted the FBI. And after agreeing to work with them, I began moving up in the communist movement. First, by joining further communist fronts, and then by joining the communist apparatus itself. But even after progressing that far, I still had many false illusions about the communist movement. For example, I
also, you know what the video is before that that he made? Literally the video before the New Left. It's the thumbnail. See, this is what I'm talking about, where it's like thumbnails got to be different than the title. Like, this is like, it's memetics is the thumbnail with a period in it. Avant-garde, sir. And then, why do we believe things that aren't true? Is the title of the video.
Poor, the underprivileged. Well, believe me, this is a myth. It is a lie manufactured by the communists to gain their own ends, or more accurately,
to access our precious
communists are
bodily
concerned with
fluids.
exploiting the poor in order to achieve their own ends and to overthrow established governments by armed revolution. Well, you can imagine my surprise when the communists came into our secret cell meetings wearing expensive tailor-made suits.
Oh my God, I knew he was going to do this. Communists is when you are poor.
Now, we held our communist meetings in some of the most lavish apartments in the finest parts of the city. Now, one of the most powerful divisions in the communist apparatus that I belonged to was the Pro-4 group. This was composed of leaders in business and cultural fields. For example, even such names linked with the Communist Party as Frederick Vanderbilt Field, Corliss Lamont,
Vanderbilt.
Stern. Certainly, these are people who are not connected with the poor, the downtrodden, or the underprivileged. Even Castro, who engineered the communist coup in Cuba, came from a very wealthy Cuban family. When Castro's father died in 1956, he left an estate of over $500,000, a lot of money for any Cuban family. And yet, this is only one of many falsehoods about the communist movement, falsehood which still prevails today despite all the evidence. In our forthcoming Red Reports, we're going to remove still further false ideas about communists. In the place of red falsehoods,
Jack,
we intend to substitute
who's worse,
the truth.
This guy or Castro?
This guy.
Thank you. I agree.
Fuck this guy.
I agree.
Confident that if our people know the real truth about communism, then they will lick the Reds hands down. To every communist, words are keys to his thinking. The Reds are masters at inventing words which have special meanings. They're also masters at confusion, like making words mean something other than they should. For instance, when the communists use the word democracy, they mean dictatorship. This is a Leninistic trick.
That's true.
Now,
that is true.
It is true.
Like also this right here, as well as like
report.
it's an extension of liberalism, not a rejection of it. So here's the thing. What you seem to be confusing is the people who you're thinking of are national socialists. They're nationalist communists.
Agitprop stands for the Communist International Agitation and Propaganda Division. In this Red Report, we're going to have a look at communist propaganda methods. We'll be bringing you several Red Reports on this important subject. First of all,
fluoridating our water.
Secondly, because it's important. And thirdly, because it is based upon a very simple but completely fiendish trick. The root of communist propaganda is based on the idea that man is an animal. Further than that, man is a machine. He is, according to the communists, matter in motion.
It's like the Wolfman, terrifying.
The communists know that they can control these machines. Now, if they can control one kind of machine, so they can control the human machine. And this is the theory behind red propaganda techniques. By scientific methods, The communists believe they can control you and me.
What is he even?
Now, let's see
yapping
exactly
about
how
at
this works.
point? I have no idea.
It's one of those marvelous electronic computers. Its secret is built-in conditioned response. Therefore, if you feed in a punch card, the response, the number 1000. Now, every time you feed in a card with
This
a punch
does not
hole in this
translate
spot,
to the modern
that
day.
machine will respond or feed back the same number. Now, here's a human electronic computer. To the communists, there's no basic difference between this machine and any other machine. First, you feed in a
What
symbol,
isn't
in this case,
happening?
a word symbol, and back comes the desired response from that human machine. That machine which has been conditioned to respond to certain predictable words. Now, when the communist propaganda
Oh my
uses the
God.
word hate, they get a suitable response from the human machine.
Do you see how
For the
this
use of
led
the
into
word
the
love,
propaganda that there was activation words?
Yeah.
the communists also get a happy response. Now, there are many other agitprop
Why does
tricks.
this
For
guy look
example,
like an asshole? He's a
word-
cop
Yeah, exactly.
in the FBI in the 60s.
war and peace.
How many
The word
communist
peace is
organizations
intended to
is
produce a
he
feeling of
infiltrating? Were black communist organizations, huh?
All of them?
I don't know. How many were
Probably
the
every
gay
single
ones?
one of them.
How many were the gay ones? How do you get close to him there? Gluck
Dick
Gluck
and butt.
9000.
Dick butt.
Why do you think
That
Hoover
doesn't
dressed as a
mean-
woman?
Dick
To
butt.
infiltrate the commies.
in the mind of the listener, but when the saber-rattling utterance of war is used, this is intended to make the human machine become frustrated and worried. And that, believe it or not, is all there is to it.
Yes, war
All
is
communist
bad.
Propaganda is based upon this simple, easy-to-follow formula.
Okay,
Psychologists
so
call it
wait.
conditioned
His thing
response.
is
We're going to have much more to say.
his thing is that you're a communist if war worries you.
Yes. Genius.
About communist propaganda techniques on forthcoming Red Reports. Communist aims never change. Their goals are always the same. It is true, however, that in their drive for world domination and control, the communists quite often change their tactics and their strategy. And this causes a great deal of confusion. Well, it's for that reason this program is being presented. It is our intent and our purpose to clear up the confusion and to tell the truth about communism. Quite frequently in my lecture trips across the country, people ask, what can I do to combat communism?
Oh my
and
God.
my answer always is,
Kill the
obtain
Reds.
knowledge
Let
and
them eat lead.
information about the communist criminal conspiracy. The reason?
Preserve
It's
our
impossible
precious
they
bodily
bleed it.
to fight an
fluids.
enemy, and certainly impossible to defeat an enemy unless you know that enemy.
More
That's the reason.
communist
And,
propaganda.
yeah, and knowing that enemy, right? You ever see a commie
Of
drink
course.
water?
You understand? Don't drink water.
No, distilled or rainwater.
Nice. It's very 80s. 60s, I guess.
60s. Oh my God.
Scary music. Not the commies.
Speak English, comrade. Remember, that is about the only freedom you do not have in this town. It's American town. Americans.
Commie bastards.
Well, actually, they're not communists anymore. They're a federation of independent, liberated states.
Don't make me hurt you, Mikey.
Frightening, isn't it? From all appearances, this community
You know,
could be in Iowa,
one of my favorite parts
California,
about
Tennessee.
me talking about commies is like just because of how socialist I am, right? Because normally when you hear people talking the way I talk about them, it's like Hitlerites,
Yeah.
because they never say tanky, right? But the thing is, for me, I'm done with the term tanky, it's just funnier to call them commies.
It looks like an American town. As American as apple pie and ice cream.
Uh-huh.
As a matter of fact, you can find
Invasion
apple
of the
pie
body
here and ice cream,
snatchers.
too. But appearances are deceptive. This is not an American town. However, it may be assumed that such a town does exist, shrouded in secrecy and protected by utmost security.
Socialism is a cocktail that never should be tried.
No, it's turpentine.
None of those ingredients.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just curious, right? I'm like, origins of apple pie.
Is it fair to
What
say that
country?
tanky is a specific type of campus? Yeah, the ones that are National Socialists.
What country does apple pie come from?
Oof.
As American as apple pie.
Yeah,
It's not America.
pies weren't really an American thing. It's more of like a European thing.
Uh-huh.
So I would say it's either France or Britain.
Mm-hmm.
Probably France, because the pastries are bigger in
Wrong.
France.
British.
Pies specifically are big in Britain,
Pie is
but
British. Yep.
pastries.
It was a pretty good
British
guess.
pies are kind of gross, you know.
Really putting
They're like, let's fill this
every
with
other American to
beans.
shame. Really putting every other American to shame who can't even find America on a map.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's the joke, is as American as apple pie. Now, the reason why they say that is because there's this whole mythos of apples.
Mm.
And like this is like they teach you about the Pilgrims having buckles on their hats, and the Indians had a single feather on their headband, and you cut it out of the paper and you stapled the paper together and you put it on your head, and then you went on the stage and did the Thanksgiving play in first grade. Everyone has done this in America.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Everyone has put a fucking Indian headband on, cut out of paper, stapled together. And a pilgrim with a fucking buckle hat, paper hat, maybe. But definitely the feather thing has happened, right? And like the whole thing with Johnny Appleseed, like, you know, like it's a weird mythos that is somehow like clinging to, just like how they want to mythologize even Columbus, you know? It's like, just stop, just tell history.
This is a college town, communist style, as part of a long-range plan to destroy our free way of life. These young communists are studying the economic, political, and religious institutions that are the very heartbeat of America. The courses here in this strangest of all schools,
well, Johnny Appleseed is actually a story about colonialism.
Propaganda as an art.
Johnny Appleseed was doing it for, he was a crazy guy, but also doing it for like colonialist reasons. And even in that, right, even in the mythos, they say that he planted apple seeds to help settle America so people would have food. So even in the mythos, it's colonialist. Like, he was a fucking landowner, I'm pretty sure.
Of the Soviet Union. It stands as a symbol of Russian treachery, of long-range communist conspiracy. This town may appear to be an accurate likeness of a
missionary
community.
Gross.
But it's a fraud.
Missionaries are the ones that are responsible for like the unintentional genocide that happens through the exposure of smallpox.
Mm-hmm.
And a genuine American. I want you to meet Jerry Donovan. He's proud of his country, but prone to take his liberties for granted. He's aware that someone must assume responsibility for those liberties, for our free way of life. Yet, when there's a job to be done, Jerry, like so many Americans, is apt to ask, why me?
Yeah. Historian Paul Aaron argues Chapman was actually a successful businessman. He bought many of the parcels of land which he planted his seeds and ultimately accumulated about 1,200 acres across the states. He wore Poplar's clothing by choice, not out of a necessity. He literally dressed, he was a rich guy who dressed like a hobo, bro. Bro, the horror movie music in this is so funny.
It's awful.
What's that?
I mean, this is just like, this is all just framing and prepping.
And also, like,
bullshit.
First of all, the most American food is pizza. We've been over this. It's not apple pie.
Oh, Corvette. Nice. My favorite Corvette.
Anybody home? Oh, hi there, partners. Hey, what is this?
You fat guy, take away our land. What? He's on the warpath. You better send some cavalry. Take him prisoner. Tie him up on hill of Brilliant.
Oh, now, wait a minute. I don't have
Kids
to
are
work
on
yet.
meth.
You sit on that hill.
Oh, now, you got this all wrong. You see, I have to be a good guy.
Sit.
Yes.
Hey, where are you going? Get him, honey. Ants, lost, honey.
Oh, now,
All
just a
right,
minute.
all right, Indians, time to wash up. Finish on the break. Right now. Dessert and wigwam later.
Oh, huh?
Well, you saved me from a fate worse than death.
Huh?
How come we did so ordinary?
Oh, don't you remember you have a union committee meeting tonight? I just want to make sure you can make it.
Yeah, that will.
I love that he left that on the
The
screen.
folks were coming here for dinner tonight.
Oh, honey, Mom and Dad aren't due in for another week yet. Now you have plenty of time to be. Huh?
Helen, you don't understand.
You don't understand, Helen.
Be here tonight.
Really? Well, then why
I just told that to the fellas to keep from going tonight. Oh. Besides, my favorite TV show is on. Would want to have would you? Would you?
Well, Jerry, you missed the last meeting. Don't you think you should be there?
Honey, nothing ever happens at those meetings. A bunch of guys sitting around listening to themselves talk. Now, the important thing that really has me worried is what's for dinner tonight, stew or hamburger?
There.
Oh, boy.
You like that?
That smells good.
Jerry, would you say that I was a nag?
No more than average.
Well, I'm afraid I'm going to be just.
Look at you.
This morning you told me
Look at
that
you.
you wouldn't be able to make PTA
Oh, my
meeting next week, right?
goodness.
That is right. Old Mrs. Potter reminds me of a lovesick hippo. Besides, Wednesday's my bowling
I
night.
think he
I can't
realizes the
think of anything
bike's
besides
open.
bowling and then television.
The way you talk about that PTA, you'd think it was some kind of a hush-hush government meeting to determine the future of the nation. They can struggle along without me.
Well, what about Jimmy's father-son banquet tomorrow night? He's been counting on that for weeks, you know that.
Well, now that is different. Wouldn't miss that for the whole world. Besides, I wrote my speech already.
Oh?
Yeah, I've been rehearsing all week. Listen to this. Members of Troop 28 are gathered here tonight to discuss the ways and means of finding homes for Trooper Ryan 16 Pelly Pups. How's that sound?
Pretty bad.
Yeah.
No, I can give them a plotting. All right.
Well,
No,
thank
listen, just one more question. Just one. What about your reserve meeting? Your next one. You missed the last one,
No,
and you
I
missed the
don't
one. Well,
have
honey,
to
you
go.
What is
did.
happening? Why are we just... We're just watching a TV drama? Is that what this is?
Yeah, well, I think they're, it's a horror movie. Right? So it's like this guy's going around and seeing the communist infiltration because everyone's drinking the
Right.
water.
Okay, here we go. I'm just like, fucking, what do we just...
Yeah,
hear
so
at a
it's going to
family?
be
Like, why the
around the
fuck-
family table, and they're like, "Hey, Dad, who's Karl Marx?"
I don't want to talk at all. I don't blame you for being sore, but I'll make it up to you. Tomorrow night we'll have an early dinner at the steakhouse. We'll take the kids to the drive-in movie.
That would be quite impossible. Tomorrow night you've been selected to address the Parent-Teachers Committee.
The what? Oh, no, there must be some mistake. They don't want me. What would I talk about? How Jimmy's team lost the Little League championship last year?
The subject of your address has already been selected for you. The theme will be how the new communistic life benefits children.
Wait a minute. What if I don't want to talk about that? What if I don't want to talk at all?
I would advise you not to object. Recently, the party learned that you were on the debate team while in school. They were very disturbed that you kept this fact a secret from them. Experienced speakers are needed by the party. They'll make very good use of you.
Is it sped up? Because I can't even understand her.
Yeah, it is.
What is this? Where do you think you're going?
We have no time for explanations. Already we are 15 minutes behind schedule.
Is it too quiet?
Why? You're not going to take another step until I see your warrant.
No, I just couldn't understand the wife because of how fast it was going.
Your daughter has volunteered for farm work. She's to be transported immediately. The truck is waiting outside.
Wait a minute. Let me get something straight. You say my
Oh,
daughter
so he
volunteered?
woke up. He woke up in a fucking
Western transport to the people.
Communist town.
yeah, in a communist world. It's his nightmare. I get
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Do we care though?
Everything you've said is a lie.
I'm kind of interested to see what happens. We'll judge it in 5 minutes because the family shit was boring. Now there's some shit happening, so we'll see what happens. But we'll actually pay attention, and we'll,
It's true, Daddy.
if it's not like super obvious, can deconstruct it.
Do you think that the IRGC isn't already fucking femboys?
Mm-hmm.
Bourgeois influence of family
The
life.
Taliban literally put makeup on him.
I'm ready.
Why'd you let you cook?
Do not interfere. It is for my own good.
Comrade Donovan, do not think that your deviationist remarks shall be overlooked. They will be reported to the proper authorities.
Okay, the really long one that you put in is the same thing, just longer.
What, the commie video?
Not quotas. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, obviously a communist thing. Quotas are definitely communist.
Mm-hmm. Definitely no quotas in capitalism. No deadlines, nothing like that.
Having a little trouble. Bertha doesn't seem to be in a working mood. The late must be fixed immediately. You have a quota to fulfill. If you fail, we'll all be held responsible. I'm doing the best I can. Quota or no quota, I can't do anything till I get this fixed. Well, then I advise you work during your lunch hour. The quota must be met, and Comrade Commissar isn't interested in excuses.
Never capitalism.
No, not even once.
Oh, it's a beautiful day. As they get back from Sunday school, why don't we all pile into the car and go over? Hey, what is this? Someone going on a trip?
You could call it a trip. Actually, the children are going away to a state school.
Wait a minute. Wait just a minute. I don't know what's happened to you or what they've done to change you, but you're not going to send these kids away.
Oh, she's not sending us away. It was our idea. We learned in school that home life does not encourage the growth of the collective character which the party wishes to develop in its young people. It's your fault. You should have spent more time training us to think along party lines. As a member of the Young Pioneers, it will be my duty to report you.
Young Pioneers, fascist. See, the kids going around reporting people. Who did that?
Fascists and red fash.
The fucking Gestapo right there.
Mm-hmm.
Line, the collective character and deviationism. It's going to be a family again, and I know just where to start. You two are going to Sunday school, and you're going right now.
Mommy, tell her.
No use to argue.
Mom!
This time, I'm going to overrule
There's no
the
church.
party.
No! He's going to overrule the party. Uh-oh.
Boys been getting kids with those lies long enough. Now
There's
you're
no
really gonna
church.
find
You
out what
watch.
the truth's all about.
Not the church.
Dad, but you wouldn't listen. There is no more Sunday school. Please take us home now, Daddy.
There's no church anymore. They've taken away God. Godless commies.
Mistake. Somebody made a big mistake.
I ever tell you that when my
right now.
dad,
Come on.
who is totally a racist fascist,
Sure.
did I ever tell you that he voted for Jimmy Carter and his dad called him a communist?
Yes, you did tell me that. Yeah.
Hilarious, right?
Very funny.
Wonder what went wrong with him. Wonder where it started.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Jimmy. What's happened? What have they done?
Keep your voice down, comrade. Otherwise, I shall have to report you.
Who put these displays in here? This is a house of worship.
You are mistaken. This is the People's Museum. And I warn you once more.
This place is a lie. Everything about it is false. This was not invented by a Russian. The man's name was Bell, Alexander Graham Bell. And he was an American. Get that, comrade. Everything on this table is as phony as the town. The rotten system you call communism.
Not the train whistle. Here come the brown shirts.
Comrade Donovan, you are accused of the following crimes against the state: subversion, deviationism, and treason. You've been given this opportunity to make a public confession of your treacherous violation.
Just a minute.
Watch. He's going to give some big impassioned speech that I don't give a fuck about. Cool. We're done. Yeah. All right, come on. Get to the video. And
What channel is this one on?
For today.
I don't know, Zip Trivia.
Huh?
It's called Zip Trivia. You sent me it.
The channel's called Zip Trivia. Interesting. Okay.
Yes.
I don't.
Today's
Because I didn't
topic.
check the
Let's
one
join
for
now a
the other ones were. So
group of young
Yeah.
people at the National Education Program Workshop in Searcy, Arkansas. At the classroom lectern is Dr. Clifton L. Gaines, Jr., noted young historian.
Some of you may be asking yourselves, why should we be bothered with developing citizenship responsibilities? Well, there are many reasons. One of the primary reasons is that great principles
starting to sound
do
like
not live from
managed
generation to
democracy.
generation without being nurtured, without being kept vigorously alive.
In
Unless we understand.
right? That's what
and
it
what-
is. So they call it managed democracy, and an algorithm picks who you're voting for. And like there's a random NPC dialogue, right? And they're like, I wonder who the algorithm is gonna select for me to vote this time.
That's fucking hilarious.
Okay, now you're ready and up.
Effectively for the principles
You
upon which
woke
our
up
American way of
tired.
life is founded.
Again.
The structure will
Oh
crumble.
my god.
And
Do you see the base?
upon which our American way of life is founded.
Look at the base. Fundamental belief in God is apparently the base
No,
and
I
foundation
thought-
of
I
the
thought,
United
I know.
States.
The structure will crumble, and our heritage of freedom will perish. Another primary reason for the development of citizenship responsibility is that we are living in an era marked by the growth of socialism. To a substantial degree, in one form or another, socialism has spread the shadow of human regimentation over most of the nations of the earth. And the shadow is encroaching upon our own liberty. A third major reason for accepting our citizenship responsibilities and working at them is the presence within America of socialist and communist propagandists dedicated to the establishment of a new order. The communist fifth columnists among us are working for a world dictatorship. To accomplish this, their strategy is to undermine the confidence of our people in the American system and the principles
How
on
does
which it
anybody
stands.
buy this? I don't understand.
The socialists among us seek to bring about a gradual change in our system by gradually destroying the principle of the
It's so
private
blatant.
ownership of property and substituting the socialist principle of government ownership. Now let's be practical for a moment. Is the American way of life worth bothering about? That is, with a viewpoint of self-interest. Well, let's see. We know that under the stars and stripes, we have more freedom than do civilized people on Earth.
Oh, really?
Our freedom stems from the fact that America is a republic, founded on a constitution, and dedicated to the principle of democracy and the worth of the individual. The people.
I didn't know it was from a political compass quiz. Okay.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, the democracy officer.
People rule. Our nation, although containing only 6% of the land area and
Bro.
7% of the population of the world,
You know the tribal people try things meta, right? So I
Yes.
just got recommended one. It says tribal people react to Led Zeppelin for the first time, which is just funny in general. Because they basically like talk more, you have to talk nonstop. They just like keep poking them to talk, right? But the name of the channel, okay, it's called Tribals, but it's spelled like all caps TRYBALS.
I hate it. I hate it so much. Fuck you, BuzzFeed.
produces 42% of the world's wealth.
BuzzFeed.
We know that the average
started this
American
shit.
in all walks of life has a living standard twice as high as the best in Europe, where socialism is widespread. And from 5 to 10.
You don't remember the video of that group of 4 BuzzFeed guys that went to get their testosterone tested and they were all below baseline? You don't remember that video?
No. I had a lot of disrespect for BuzzFeed, so
That
I didn't
was
look
like
at anything that they've done.
that was like peak Try Guys BuzzFeed bullshit. It was so funny.
times better than in the communist countries, such as Russia and China.
It's so
And
funny
if we
when he
remember our previous lessons,
big height, he makes such a plop noise when he hits the ground.
we know that this economic abundance is possible in America because incentive for progress and the other factors built into our dynamic private enterprise system have enabled us to utilize our resources to the fullest extent. So we do have good sound reasons, both abstractly and in self-interest, for developing citizenship responsibilities toward safeguarding the basic principles of our way of life.
3 minutes straight, he's been drinking this water.
But let's put the full challenge in a few words.
Been activated. That's
the world is caught in an era of
I said his water probably wasn't activated. I don't know which one is which. I always forget, but one of them has like a ball bearing that like is like out of place and fucks up. So it's like shake it until the water starts coming out and the ball bearing gets knocked back down.
socialist expansion. Most of the nations are affected, and America is a target. In fact, the number one target of both the socialist and the communist. If we permit our great system to crumble through the apathy of our citizenship, we shall lose not only our freedom, but our prosperity and our still brighter future. What then must we do as citizens? What are our obligations of citizenship?
None.
Number one,
nothing.
To understand the American way of life and what makes it tick.
In our republic, we have representative government, not sheer majority rule.
And isn't its authority divided into three branches, the executive, legislative, and judicial?
Yes, it is. And it's important, too, that in our republic, authority is surrounded by an ingenious system of checks and balances.
That's because, like, the outro for LTech, it sounds like this guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I took that from Periscope
to
make it.
That prevents autocratic or dictatorial rule. That is, if we maintain the Constitution as our basic law. Well, that briefly sums up our political structure. What about our economic structure?
Our economic system is based on three major principles: private ownership of property, the profit motive, and the competitive open market.
Yes, those are the three great pillars.
No.
Private ownership diffuses the
There's
wealth
one pillar.
and economic
It's the profit motive. Thank you.
power
Thanks
over
for
the very
coming to
widest
school
area,
today, kids.
over our whole population, and makes our people independent, masters of their own lives.
Okay. I'm over it.
Crackpot.
What do you want first? What do you want first?
Huh?
Do we want to know TikTok or do we want challenge mode?
I don't care.
A little longer one.
You will regret ethical reacting to this? No, I won't. I will never regret ethical reacting to Johnny Harris. He's my fave. Johnny Harris is my problematic fave, okay?
Even the sting he's eating.
Oh, I wasn't even looking.
All right, let's do some. Let's do.
Everything
This
is
is
breaking.
this is supposed to be one of the edited channels.
It's all fun stuff.
Within 10 days, you and your family will be.
Look, see, this one's
See
the
if you can
best.
find a better
Fun stuff.
edited one that isn't an hour and 10 minutes.
No. But this one, it tells you when he'll rant for. It'll put up those red cards. So if he goes off topic, it will tell you.
Okay.
In theory.
Now, in Montgomery, our home was bombed twice. Today, we still confront threats through telephone calls and through the mail.
Yeah, subscribe to us. Press the subscribe button for us. Thanks, Hassan, for plugging our subscribe button. Remember, like, if you can't donate to the NGO, just please subscribe. Help us boost our view count. Get us out there. We're still very small, so the best thing you can do is share us. You know, and
Please.
if you give us $1, you're gonna get extended LTEX in your name at the bottom of the screen.
And you'll get founder title when we found the NGO.
Yeah, we don't need it. We do. You know, it's the same people who are here every day. So
yeah.
Like to
I
the
know.
one new person who's watching, you know?
Yeah, just for the person who is new.
There's blackmail.
That's how it is.
As
It's
well
always
as
like
this
one new.
one-page letter.
Yeah.
The letter.
Because you are black and you are male. I'm sorry. I can't. Every time I.
See, that was
Not
great.
all-
It cut to his.
Are you aware of a CIA psychological profile about you, sir? Would you be interested in hearing what the CIA had to say? This secret study portrays as a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac who is likely to pursue his own aims in disregard of U.S. interests. He's an uncertain ally. Shall I go on, or would you prefer that I stop, sir?